Hello and welcome to the Doofcast, a film and TV podcast from Doof Media. My name is Scott Daly, and joining me, as always, the master of the muffin himself, it's Matt Freeman. How's it going today, Matt?
That's right. We're going to seduce and destroy your ears today.
Oh my God, what a character. I can't wait to talk about Frank Mackey.
Me too.
And that is because this week on the show, we are continuing our 8, 9, 10-part series. I forgot how many Paul Thomas Anderson movies there are. We're continuing our series, Deconstructing Paul Thomas Anderson. We are on PTA's third feature film, 1999's Magnolia. And this is one, Matt, that I was looking forward to. It's been a long time since I revisited this movie. I was really looking forward to checking it out. And I can't wait to try to bumble our way through this conversation.
Yeah, I am really looking forward to this. I had never seen this movie before and somehow managed to go my entire life without really ever getting even an osmosis sense of what it is, what it's about, any of that. So this was a very refreshing film experience for me, and I'm just thrilled that we have the opportunity to talk about it.
Great. Yeah, this was, I know I've talked about my roommate in college who got really into ripping movies. Justin, you remember him?
Yeah.
Junior year of college, he just would rent movies from Netflix or get movies to Redbox and then rip them and then burn them. And he had a big, thick binder with hundreds of movies in them. And this was one of the movies in them. And I watched it way back then and fell in love with it. And I don't think I've seen it since I was 21 years old. So was looking forward to this for sure.
I would be somewhat interested to hear what sort of mental update that led to, but we can.
Yeah, we can get into that for sure.
Yeah. All right.
All right, Matt. What is Magnolia all about?
An epic mosaic of interrelated characters in search of love, forgiveness, and meaning in the San Fernando Valley. This
movie was, of course, written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. It stars a huge ensemble of actors. Here's just a few of them. Tom Cruise, Philip Baker Hall is back. Julianne Moore is back. John C. Reilly is back. Philip Seymour Hoffman is back. And the list goes on from there. But just a huge ensemble cast. Tom Cruise, obviously, probably the biggest one in here. Actually, I read that the studio really wanted to market this film as a Tom Cruise movie. And PTA was like, no. And it ended up he designed both the poster and cut the trailer himself because he was unsatisfied with all their attempts at making this a Tom Cruise film and not an ensemble film.
That's probably a good idea, although it probably would have made more money if it had been marketed as a Tom Cruise film, to be honest.
I think it would have made more money. It also would have pissed a lot of people off because I think if you market this as a Tom Cruise movie and you walk into it and you get this, I just think this is true in general for this movie that I watched the trailer for this movie and I think he did a good job cutting it, but how do you explain in 2 minutes what this movie is?
Yeah, right. The summary that I just read, the one sentence summary, is both extremely unsatisfying and a pretty decent attempt at summarizing because it's look, it really is just that. It's basically 9 characters and constituting approximately 9 distinct short stories that are all they're all tangentially related. It's funny, Wikipedia provides a handy diagram that shows the ways in which the characters are related, and
I did see that, yeah.
It's just kind of cute and a handy reference for our discussion. But basically it's any given 2 or 3 of them might be related, but typically no more than that. And then so it's just kind of this loose web of interconnected stories, of loosely interconnected stories, and that's probably the best way to look at it, because all the stories, other than having some thematic resonance, they're all pretty different stories.
Yeah.
I love that, by the way. I just want to mention this, as a person who tries to write from time to time, the idea of having the balls to be I'm just going to come up with a bunch of character sketches, basically, and a bunch of thematic ideas and a bunch of highly original story concepts and just play that out, and that's the movie. And and like you take that to any sort of script writing seminar or whatever, they're going to be like, oh my god, this is a mess. Where's your through line? Where's your, you need to get your save the cat structure and hammer this thing into shape. And PTA is just like, nope, I am the captain now, and this is how we're doing movies, and I'm going to have a lasting impression on film, and everybody's going to love it. And then he's right.
Yeah, Robert McKee would have ripped this thing apart, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that is, I think, kind of one of the big through lines of PTA so far, at least with these 3 movies that we've covered, right? That certainly there is a plot to all of these movies, definitionally. There are things that happen, but the structure of a plot, of a narrative, is just like a thin excuse to just have character study. And I think it's been true in Hard 8. It was true in Boogie Nights. But this is, I think, where it's the most true so far, is that certainly we have plots, we have short stories, but this is really just this exploration of these people. It is a day in the life, essentially, of these people. And then we get to have fun with the weird random connections and how all these things are happening at the same time. I absolutely adore the opening little monologue thing, where Paul Thomas Anderson kind of smartly knows that he's about to drop you in a world and a film that is probably not quite what you've seen before. And so he offers you like a 5-minute primer on, this is what the movie's going to be about. I'm going to tell you these 3 stories, these 3 random stories, one of which is true, by the way. The last story of the 3 he tells in the opening, of the man who threw himself off a building and ended up getting shot by his mother on the way down, supposedly is the true story.
Well, I know that the man being scooped up by the scuba diver being scooped up by the plane, I thought that was a true story, but maybe not. Now that you're telling me this, it's possible that I'm just credulous. Anyway,
no idea.
Yeah. And yeah, but yeah, I think you're right. Basically, it's very fun. It was vaguely Wes Anderson, in the sort of like, we're having some affected distance from the storytelling and doing the narrator thing. And then, like you said, it's priming you for this idea of like, the theme here is a theme of interconnection and serendipity, which may not be a good thing, actually.
No, for sure.
Maybe like a terrible coincidence, but and then putting forth something like a thesis that like there is no such thing as a coincidence, and there is meaning behind these connections, although we can't necessarily say what that meaning is. I like that. There's a lot to chew on in terms of what the movie is saying.
Yeah.
I found myself actually wondering, sort of feeling unsure in some regards about what the movie is saying, which is fine. We can talk about that, maybe figure it out.
Yeah, I think that probably where most of the conversation is going to lie, right? Like, I think we could go story by story and talk about the characters and the performances and things like that. And certainly I would enjoy that conversation. But yeah, I mean, I definitely like really just loved diving into, I mean, it is essentially, when you break it down, it is a series of stories about like fathers and their children, right? That the biggest connecting tissue here is dads, and I'm not great dads, right? Is there a dad in this story that's like a good dad?
No. No, there's ways in which they have mistreated their children, and that's about it. It's funny. I don't know that I was thinking too much about that specific through line, but because really there's 2 main dads, right? There's Earl, the guy who's
Earl
dying,
is the dying television producer, and then Jimmy. What is this? He's got a funny name.
Yeah, I forget. He's the television game show host. They're both television guys. That's another theme. I know I'm all over the place here, but like another big theme is like everything sort of rotates around this game show.
Mm-hmm.
So big idea of like how things are presented, showmanship, and then also Frank he's not directly on TV per se, but he's being interviewed, he's giving presentations, he writes books, he's very much about the appearances of things. So there's like this axis of sort of trying to being very concerned with the appearances of things and putting that first.
It was Jimmy Gator, by the way.
Jimmy Gator,
the great name, Jimmy Gator. Yeah. I mean, you have those two as both fathers that either abandoned or abused their children. You also have the two game show whiz kids. One, a full grown up William H. Macy, who was taken advantage of by his parents. They took all his money, and then you have young Stanley, whose father is doing the same thing to him now. You just have a lot of bad dads, for sure.
Yeah. So maybe this is just me being completely dumb. I had this thought toward the beginning of the movie that Stanley was just young Donnie, or vice versa. No, that Stanley was young Donnie, because I didn't have their name straight in my head. And I was like, is this a time skip thing? And then eventually clued in, like, no, these are just separate characters.
Yeah.
But then once I realized they were separate characters, I was like, so what is the contrast that we're drawing here exactly? I mean, is it as simple as like, well, he stood up to his father, and he's able to stand up to his father because of what happened with Jimmy, and this provided a kind of pattern interrupt to what otherwise would have been a sort of normal life that would have played out and become just like Donnie's. Like so another way of saying that is like the frogs is essentially eucatastrophe interceding onto the story and disrupting what otherwise would have been the continuing of these traumatic patterns and just people making the same mistakes over again. Instead of Donnie like continuing to be dumb and make mistakes, the frogs knock him off the roof and mess up his teeth, and then he meets the cop Jem, and the cop Jem decides to go back and find Claudia. There's so many things that are sort of interrupted by the frogs, and the frogs being this sort of like random element.
Yeah, I mean, and we have to talk about the exodus of it all, right? Because this is the line from the Bible. It's referenced several times throughout the movie. Exodus 8:2, I believe, is when God told Moses to tell the Pharaoh that if he doesn't let his people go, he will rain down a plague of frogs upon him. And so, I mean, talking about it in that light, this idea of slavery and the freedom of slavery, letting people go, it really, I think, does kind of crystallize a thing for me here of just like, these are people that are stuck, that are trapped. And the eucatastrophe, I hadn't thought of it being as eucatastrophe, but the second you said that, I was like, oh yeah, 100%. Is the kind of the catalyst towards change for a lot of these characters. Some ways in good ways, some ways in not so good ways. I think the moment with Jimmy Gator is really interesting because he is you pointed this out to me, that he's dying of cancer. He attempts to kill himself. A frog smashes into him right when he's about to pull the trigger, making him miss. But then he shoots a microwave and burns to death. Presumably, actually, we don't know if how his house burns. I don't know if he burns in it or not.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about Jimmy Gator a bit because his storyline, pretty much every other character's storyline, leaves you with this feeling of wistful hopefulness. Maybe something good will happen here. Maybe this person will find what they're looking for. They seem to have at least had some kind of epiphany. Whether or not they will capitalize on that is unclear. But Jimmy Gator's is almost an exact opposite of this, where toward the beginning, like the whole first part of the movie, you sort of see him as this tragic character who you feel bad for, and you just I don't know, maybe I was just suckered, or maybe I missed clues I was supposed to be getting, but I was just thinking like, he's this sweet old man. He's trying to reach out to his daughter. He's dying of cancer. He's been sort of this like avuncular figure on this game show for decades, and everyone loves him. And then like very, very close to the end of the movie, it's like, okay, you cheated on your wife a bunch and molested your daughter, and you're actually a monster.
Yeah.
And then and we leave him off, like you just said. We don't actually really know what happens to him. Like he falls on the ground and the frogs are falling and the house is on fire, and that's it. Like cut to another character. And I just thought that was interesting. I'm not criticizing any of this at all. It's just really interesting how his storyline is almost the inverse of the pattern of the other stories, and I was less sure sort of what to take away from it.
Yeah. I mean, I think like, but we see both of the, well, I say both of, we see the two elderly bad dad characters possibly die, right? Earl passes away. But we do give Earl a moment where he gets to see his son standing there in front of him. So yeah, even Earl gets like a little bit of something.
Yeah. Right.
But I mean, the Jimmy Gator, like, I think you're so right that the movie kind of plays a trick on you with that, because, we see his interaction with his daughter and we like kind of don't understand at that point, like why his daughter is so resistant to him.
Yeah.
Like, and we're just like, come on, Claudia. Like, and the way the show paints his daughter as kind of a fuck up who's sleeping around with a bunch of people, like that's again kind of using our expectations against us. It's like, oh man, she's messed up and her dad's here on her door trying to help her, maybe. But no, the reason she's fucked up is because of him, actually.
Yeah.
It is a surprising reveal. And gosh, that scene at the end where he can't even like say that he did it, right? Like the way he comes clean with his wife about it is she thinks I molested her, I abused her. And she's like, "Did you?" He's like, I don't know. I can't remember. It's like, what do you mean you can't remember? He just can't even say it. He just won't even say it.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was an interesting scene in so many ways. It's almost like he's trying to confess to having cheated so that he can get absolution.
Yeah.
For something. But he knows that that's not the worst thing he did.
Yeah.
What he really wanted was absolution from his daughter. So the theme of forgiveness is a big one. I think you can sort of take both sides of that coin, where it's like there's the forgiven and there's the forgiver. If that's a word. Seems like it should be. And like, is it in the power of a person, or is it right to forgive people? Is it, what can we forgive is like a, there's even the whole bit where they're all like singing, right? That's connected to this idea. And it's like, does he deserve to be forgiven? And when and part of me immediately in my heart is like, no.
Yeah.
But when you think about it as having a biblical connection, there's this biblical idea that God forgives everyone who seeks forgiveness. So maybe. And he was seeking forgiveness, but he wasn't granted it. And it's like, well, does that mean it's like, well, it's in the hands of the person who can grant that forgiveness? And his daughter didn't forgive him, and his wife didn't forgive him, because what he did was beyond that. I don't know. I think these are the questions we're meant to be asking and mulling over, though.
Yeah. No, certainly. And I mean, just like the idea, the biblical imagery of the frogs, and then the frogs preventing him from committing suicide, which is a great sin. But then like if he burns up, it's like kind of a symbolic hell, right? Like, so yeah, I mean, I ultimately don't know how I feel about it. Other than just like you said, I find it really fascinating to kind of think about what exactly we're doing here. I mean, I think forgiveness is definitely the through line through all of this. And it ultimately is up to people what they can and can't forgive. I like to think we see Claudia at the end, we leave her hopeful. And I don't think that's like she's forgiven her father for what she did to her. But she has like hopefully gotten to a place where I don't know, we're meant to be hopeful about the John C. Reilly relationship, right?
Yeah, I think
Despite
so.
him kind of being a bumbling buffoon as well.
Yeah, like both of them. I really like these characters, by the way, because they're both kind of fuck ups, but also there's something earnest and just pure about them, like and like heartfelt, I guess.
Yeah.
Where despite the fact that she makes all these terrible choices, she just really earnestly wants to have some kind of human connection, and she, yeah, I think I believe that she wants to leave the coke behind her, but she doesn't think she deserves to, you know.
Yeah.
And
she hates herself. Oh, for sure. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and he um like again, he has this earnestness. That's what they have in common, is they have this almost cringe level of earnestness between them. That's it's kind of what makes them a good match. And maybe we're meant, like, this is kind of what I took away from it, is believing in my hopeful child's heart. Like maybe just both having that level of earnestness and desire for connection is going to be enough for them. Maybe that can get them past all their differences and struggles.
Yeah, I think so. And then the rain blessed him with his gun back, right? The rain of frogs also delivered his gun back to him, and I think that gave him the chutzpah to go back and the movie ends on him talking to her and her smiling. So
yeah,
I love, by the way, that his character is so great, because we see him in the car kind of narrating his life, and like we make the assumption that he's talking to someone, but he's just talking to himself.
Yeah.
He's like kind of playing his own version of cops in a way.
Yeah, he's given himself a pep talk, and there's a kind of like hyper reality to stuff like that. And I mentioned the singing bit earlier, where you're cutting between these characters and they're all singing along with the soundtrack of the movie, which I don't think I've ever seen in any movie before or since. And I was kind of tickled by how well it actually worked. Like it's a fun affectation. I like it.
It's very fun. And like, I think Amy Mann, like, I think the soundtrack of this movie is like Amy Mann songs, who is Paul Thomas Anderson's friend. And like, he just, like, there's so many of her songs in this film.
Yeah, it's cool. I don't know who that is really, but yeah, I like the soundtrack though. I did notice that.
Yeah, no, it's really great. We got to talk about Tom Cruise. Let's just rip the Band-Aid off and talk about Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
I love Tom Cruise so much as an actor. And like, so I in preparation for the new Mission Impossible movie, which by the way, I still have not gone to see, my wife and I did watch all of the Mission Impossible films again, over like the course of a month. And while I really enjoyed them, actually my opinion of them went down over the rewatch, with the exception of the first one. But I think Tom Cruise is great in them. But there is a part of me that's pretty brokenhearted that not long after this movie, I think, he kind of just decided to not really do the acting thing anymore. And he wasn't going to try to be like an actor anymore. He like dove headfirst into this special effects stunts guy thing that he's fully inhabited now. And I don't know, man, I miss Tom Cruise when he's trying. I really do.
Yeah. So just for everyone's reference, because I didn't necessarily put this together, you know, this was 1999.
Yeah.
So this was the movie he made after Eyes Wide Shut.
Correct. Yeah.
Jerry Maguire.
Which he got an Oscar nomination for.
Yeah. Yep. Mission Impossible 1, which you just said was like his, you know, the best one and the best acting from him. Interview with the Vampire, The Firm, A Few Good Men. Like this was his career defining streak of incredible movies. And then the movie after Magnolia is Mission Impossible 2.
Yeah.
So
I mean, he has a little bit here and there. Like he has Vanilla Sky, which is a movie that ultimately didn't work very well, but like it's definitely like Tom Cruise still trying.
Yeah.
And then Collateral, I think, is a really great performance of him doing something a little different. But then really from there, with the exception of like Tropic Thunder being like a what the fuck moment, he really just dives into, and it's not like I haven't liked those films he's done, but he just hasn't, like, he was a serious actor for a time.
Right. I mean, Edge of Tomorrow is literally one of my favorite movies, but I just have to agree that like he's doing a he's doing it's good acting. It's just not like it's not this kind of movie where he's like shaking and spitting. like some of my favorite bits are actually when he's being interviewed by the I don't know, is it for a news segment or
like a magazine or something? Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah.
But like she's just asking him a question and the camera is on him and he's doing the things he's doing with his face as he reacts to what she's saying. You could teach an entire seminar on the choices he's making there. It's such a distinct character, right? Like that's really the thing to say about this Frank Mackey character is he's just such a distinct character, which really interesting concept for a character for a movie. Like I've not seen something quite like this anywhere else. I just overall really appreciate the originality of this movie, by the way.
I mean, it's using all like the charm and charisma that is Tom Cruise to craft someone that is so boisterously despicable in how we first meet him, right? And then only after that we tear down this shell that he's created to protect himself, and we get to see this incredibly just broken, vulnerable man underneath it all. And Cruise has to play both and convince us that one was underneath the other the entire time. And
totally,
it's remarkable. It really is. He was nominated for an Oscar for this one as well, supporting Oscar. Did not win, unfortunately. Like, part of me wonders if Tom Cruise had won for Jerry Maguire or had won for Magnolia, would the world look completely different? Because like, if he gets honored for this type of stuff with the greatest award in the business, does he say, okay, I'm going to keep doing this, or not?
Maybe. I mean, I think so. I actually know very little about Tom Cruise, partly because I think Tom Cruise wants it that way.
Oh, very much so. Yeah. He does not do interviews in the way anyone does interviews.
Yeah. And I think Tom Cruise is a business. You know, Tom Cruise, I actually think that Tom Cruise likes making infinity dollars with the movies that he does make, and that's his choice. And I can't begrudge him that because I still love his action movies.
Yeah. But let's like, Tom Cruise loves movies. Like he is of the superstar actors working today, he probably loves movies more than like anyone. And he has like, he is constantly talking about other movies. Like, a lot of people give him credit for helping prop up the whole industry right now, at least in theaters, where he is like, if you go and interview with Tom Cruise, he's going to talk about the latest movie he saw in the theater. And he's going to tell you, you need to go see this movie. It's awesome. Like, the dude loves movies. He loves making movies. Like, I'm not saying that the choice that he made to not do this kind of film was because he wasn't like enjoying movies, and he doesn't enjoy making movies, and he's just doing the lowest common denominator stuff to get money. Like, I think that's part of it, sure, but I think he genuinely loves making these films.
Yeah, that all makes sense to me. So I don't think, you know, I guess the reason I say all that is just like I don't actually know that he would have made different decisions if he had gotten an Academy Award, because to him, I think I suspect that those nominations were more like a means to an end, where he can now he now has a blank check, as it were, to just do whatever he wants forever. And then just make more money. Well, which is interesting, because what he chooses to do with that blank check is to just make blockbusters rather than make artistic, niche, weird movies. And I think that's what he wants. Like, I think he wants to make $300 million.
Well, Matt, he is getting an honorary Oscar at the 2026 Oscars, so he will have an Academy Award this time next year.
Oh, good. He deserves
and
it.
he is in production on an Alejandro Inarritu film right now.
Well, there you go. I mean, he's only, how old is he?
62, I think.
He's only 62. He's got a few more movies left in him. I'm excited to see like what late career Tom Cruise does, what sorts of roles he takes.
I do wonder, like, once Tom Cruise has finally realized that his body can't do those things anymore, like, is he just gonna be like, okay, then I'm done, or is he gonna like do shit like Magnolia again? Like, I'm so curious about where his career ends up.
Or Tropic Thunder. I mean, we have seen this funny thing where I feel like this has happened a few times recently, where a former sort of like heartthrob / action star actor of our youth has become a comedic actor in their old age.
Yeah, sure.
So that would be fun because I love him as a comedic actor.
Yeah, he's great. One of these days we're gonna do like a whole Tom Cruise retrospective thing. Like I think we did like for I forget which actor we did it for, but we did like a Hall of Fame thing where we like picked their 10 films that best exemplified them. It could be fun to do one of those on Tom Cruise.
Totally.
Magnolia would definitely go on that list. I can say that right now. Is this his best performance, do you think? Like, is this Tom Cruise at the absolute top of his game?
I have a hard time naming a better one. I was thinking about this. I was trying to, and I was like, well, it's 100% certainly his like biggest performance.
Mm-hmm.
It's really hard to say best because there's maybe other, something like Lestat where it's like, well, that's just very particular in a way that's like really fun, but it's like, is it his best performance? No, I don't think so. I think this is probably his best like naturalistic performance. If we're going to divide things into categories.
Yeah.
Or I could stop dissembling and just say, yes, I agree. It's his best performance.
I think it's so weird that this came out the same time Eyes Wide Shut came out. Now, obviously, he filmed Eyes Wide Shut first, but both of these movies came out in 1999, and they're just completely different characters.
Yeah.
And in fact, I think that's why he actually agreed to do this movie. It's like the story that I heard was that Tom Cruise, as we said, really likes movies, and he really liked Boogie Nights, and he reached out to Paul Thomas Anderson and was like, "Hey, Boogie Nights was a great movie. I want to be in whatever you do next." And PTA sent him the script and thinking of him for Frank Mackey. And he was just like, there's no way he's going to want to do this. There's absolutely no way. And he said it was like the dream thing where like he calls him a day later and is like, let's do it. It's just awesome.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love that. I didn't know that. Yeah, I mean, it's great performance. I feel to return to something you said a minute ago, like it's almost like PTA set an intentional acting challenge where he's like, all right, you're going to walk into the building. You're going to be a huge asshole to Philip Seymour Hoffman's character, who I think may literally be like an angel in context of the movie. And then you're going to threaten to drop kick dogs 2 separate times.
Yeah.
And then you're going to completely turn it around on us and we're going to feel bad for you.
Yeah.
That's the challenge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. And he pulls it off. It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a sequence, man. I will never forget. Like that's the thing that, so you asked me like, what was the experience of this movie? Like watching it when I was 21 and now watching it when I'm 39. And like, I remember like that was like me and my biggest like film snob phase was, of course, that's what college does to you. But I was just really just into the idea of the movie, maybe even more than I liked the movie itself. Like that's what I remember. I just being like, oh, this is so different. This is so outlandish. This is so fascinating. And I think I was picking up on all the stuff that like I like today still. But it was more just the doing of it than like actually thinking about what was it trying to say and what was it actually doing with any of this stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, we've honed our skills over time. So,
and I like Philip Seymour Hoffman, man. Like this is like I love this character for him. I really love this character who, you're right, is just like kind of uncomplicatedly just the nicest human being that's ever existed on the planet. Like, who would work as hard as this guy worked to find Frank Mackey, right?
Yeah.
He's wonderful. He's so kind. He's so and like he takes pride in what he does, and I just a little love. Like, it is kind of different for Philip Seymour Hoffman a little bit, right? Because you like in my head, the characters that I imagine Philip Seymour Hoffman are kind of like the doofy screw ups, or the serious, like kind of scary characters.
Yeah, like powerful, imposing.
Yeah,
just like something that uses his either his charisma or his comedy or something. But this is he's just like a normal, sweet guy. It is funny how we kind of play with that toward the beginning. I know maybe this was less evident to you since you've watched the movie before, but when he's ordering, he calls into the grocery store and he orders some stuff, and he like very timidly orders a bunch of porno mags, and in that moment you have no idea what's going on, and you're like, is he gonna? Where are we going with this? Like, was he turned on by something that happened with the old man just now?
Well, he was like flipping channels and he sees the porn on the TV, and he's like immediately like taken by it.
Yeah.
And then they calls up a phone and then orders three porno magazines.
And then you're like, okay, this guy's a freak. And then he gets the porno magazines and you're like, okay. And then he immediately finds the Frank Mackey ad, and that's the end of the porno mag. And you're like, oh, it was literally just to find the ad so that he could get a phone number. And that, like, it's just funny how the movie kind of plays with us there and kind of plays with our perceptions of this character who, at various times earlier in the movie, I had kind of maybe a sinister interpretation of like, what is this guy doing exactly? Like what? And then ultimately, I think it's just like he's really invested in this old man and some kind of forgiveness or absolution or healing for this old man, hopefully before he dies. But I think, again, maybe this is projection, but maybe some of it is just like some kind of healing maybe for Frank Mackey too. Like that's
I think so.
Which I think we see, or at least is hinted at, is that he then goes to the hospital where his mom is stepmom. Yeah.
No, I absolutely. I think you're vibing exactly with what the movie wants you to. Like, well, it sets up the situation where we meet this old man, and then we meet his wife, who is both using his medication but also much, much younger than him. And indeed, we learned that she has just married him for his money. And so, like, we're primed for this situation where are these people all taking advantage of this old dying man, and maybe Philip Seymour Hoffman's character is doing that too.
Yeah.
But of course he's not. And then we haven't talked much about the Julianne Moore character yet, but I just love that idea too. I love this idea of this woman who marries this guy for his money, and it is only as he is about to die that she realizes that she loves him and feels terrible and doesn't want his money, and yet doesn't want Frank to have the money either. Like, she's not perfect, right? Like it's not like we see this character. Oh, she actually loves him, and now I think she's great. It's like, no, not actually. She's trying to stand in the way of her husband reconciling with his son. She's trying to prevent him from getting the money.
Yeah,
like, she's not perfect.
Yeah, no one's perfect. Everyone has done terrible things, maybe except like the little kid.
Yeah, I think Stanley's pretty blameless here.
Yeah, Stanley's our one like standard of, okay, well, this is how it starts though. Like, you can imagine a bad path for Stanley. I think that's important. Because
you don't even have to imagine it. Yeah. It's in the movie.
Yeah.
Like that is the William H. Macy character.
Exactly. Exactly. And maybe he can avoid it, but maybe not, or some other thing will happen. But yeah.
And I guess William H. Macy's character is not even like, he's not like particularly like bad. He's just broken.
Yeah, right. I mean, we feel bad for him. We feel sympathy for him. But he's broken by being abused, right? Just like everyone. I mean, there's several patterns that go across multiple characters, like infidelity being a pattern where multiple characters have committed it and then feel terrible about that, and it haunts them and they want forgiveness for it. And then there's the pattern of abusing a child, which in the case of, I think, the two game show kids is not sexual, but is still, but is essentially they're exploiting those children.
Yeah. If there's any like actual slave parallel here to the Exodus, let my people go of it, it's Stanley and the children.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't think of that at all. Now I'm thinking of it. No, I like that. I was trying to think of like other through lines. I don't know. Do you think, this is just a thought that crossed my mind, do you think that the cop like kind of picked up that maybe she was doing illegal things in her room, or do you think he was totally oblivious?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think he's oblivious at first. I think he groks to it eventually. And like, I mean, his speech at the end there, where he's talking about like the decision a cop has to make is like when to arrest a person and when not to, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's kind of talking about William H. Macy's character, who he's just admitted stole.
Yeah.
But he's also, I think, talking about Claudia as well.
Yeah, because really he's talking about forgiveness. I mean, he's kind of acting as if Philip Seymour Hoffman is an angel, he is another arbiter of forgiveness, or you know, he is the one who doles out judgment in that sense, and he's extending forgiveness to someone who doesn't believe that they deserve it.
Yeah, I like that.
It's good.
There's so much, like it's kind of overwhelming.
Yeah.
I feel like we're only scratching the surface, and yet I'm running out of things to say.
Yeah, I think we kind of knew this would happen because this is a notoriously, nonlinear sort of. It's a web more than it is a line.
Yeah.
But
I guess just like trying to zoom in a little more. I think we've been trying to take it like as a whole. Like I find the way Paul Thomas Anderson writes dialogue scenes to just be enthralling in a really specific kind of way.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, even thinking back to like one of the first scenes in the movie, John C. Reilly's Officer Jim is going into a house that he heard a disturbance at. I think there's the woman there, Marcy, who is like pissed off that he's there and talking shit to him the whole time. Like even that scene, I was like enthralled by their conversation and what was going to happen and what was going on here. And just like the way he writes and films these dialogue sequences, which is essentially all this movie is. Like I just like, it's fun to talk about the movie broadly and all the interconnection, all this, but like beat to beat, moment to moment, I think you're just pretty enthralled with everything that's happening in front of you on the screen.
Yeah, I'm being a little tongue in cheek here because I don't really think he wrote the movie this way, but I almost think that he just like had in mind a bunch of really, really riveting scenes, and then he worked backwards from that.
Yeah, it could be.
But like it feels like that, even if that's not true, because there are so many moments like that where like the in the bar, William H. Macy in the bar. That was some of my favorite stuff in the movie, where it's like that's such a unique. Again, I keep using the word creative concept for a scene where it's like he really wants to catch the attention of this bartender. He's in love with this bartender. he's going to get braces because then he'll have something in common with the bartender, and then that'll be enough to start a conversation, and then maybe, dot dot dot, who knows. He's so desperate that he's not even thinking clearly about these things, and then he sees this other man who clearly has the attention of the bartender, and he's incredibly jealous and resentful, and this just causes him to vomit up all of his regrets and bitterness about his life. And I mean, I've always thought William H. Macy was a great and compelling actor, but I feel like this might also be his best performance, or my favorite anyway.
Yeah, maybe. I need to look at his filmography before I definitively agree with that. But no, I think it's such a, like, this is something I've said like 4 times already, and it's just continues to be true. It's such a great character, and it's such, like, the stuff we put that character through is just not what you expect, right? Like, even if I told you at the beginning of this movie, like, oh, one of the characters of this movie is going to be a wonder kid who won a bunch of money and was the smartest kid in the room, and then he grows up, and what is that character going to be like? You might guess like the type of person he would be, but I don't think you'd guess like the journey he takes in this story.
Yeah.
And it's like, I love the line, "I have so much love to give, I just don't have anyone to give it to." It's so heartbreaking.
Yeah. Yeah, that some of the dialogue in there is so poetic, because like you can see my interpretation is like you're seeing the beautiful and poetic and brilliant soul that is kind of trapped within this shell of bitterness and trauma, and maybe to some degree he's been like literally brain damaged by being struck by lightning. But again, maybe feel like I'm projecting, but my interpretation is like, no, it's not literal damage. It's like, it's just the damage of trauma and self-doubt and betrayal.
Yeah.
Like he clearly has this like very agile mind. Like he's saying all these sort of beautiful poetic things as he's arguing with the other man at the bar. That they're sort of disordered, but that's partly because he's drunk and partly because he's really upset, I think. But I think it's also because he's messed up, but by the fact that he's been like consistently betrayed by the people who were supposed to be taking care of him. I do think like that is an example of abusing children, although it's not sexual abuse. It's still just mistreating a child to the point where it kind of ruins their sense of what the world is and what they can expect from life.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that it perfectly, that final, like, I have all this love and I don't know where to put it, because like when your parents betray you, you and I have on podcasts before talked about like the betrayal of a parent is like the worst thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like just the worst thing, that like these are the people you put the most amount of trust in. They are your entire world, and his parents did this to him. And so where do you put the love you have when you can't even put it in your parents anymore? And yeah, it's like, I love this idea of like, I used to be smart, but now I'm just stupid. And like, he's not, right? Like, he's still very intelligent. Like throughout the course of his drunken ramblings, like I love when he corrects the guy at the bar who's like quotes, I forget who he quotes, but he quotes someone, and he says it's slightly wrong, and Donnie corrects him.
Yeah.
And it's like, because he knows this shit. He's really smart.
Yeah.
He's just fucked up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you really feel for him, right? Like the movie's really good at playing with this line between sort of like pathetic and pitiable, and our emotions about like what we feel about this person, what we want to happen to this person. It's interesting because I wouldn't have necessarily picked out these themes from Boogie Nights, for example.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look back on Boogie Nights, I think maybe there's some of this in there where, I'm thinking about the end of that movie, and how I think there is a kind of like redemptive forgiveness background motif.
Yeah.
it's not central, but I noticed this pattern, this storytelling idea, at least that he uses.
For sure. There's also this definite idea of parents and families and the ways they can hurt us and drive us to actions and beliefs and lives that are ultimately destructive for us. I think Paul Thomas Anderson is definitely very interested in parent-child relationships. I mean, that's Heart 8 for sure as well. And Boogie Nights is kind of one big found family that Marky Mark was pushed to because of his terrible, terrible mother.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, it's all here for sure. I mean, I think just generally, like, this is the thing that I find so fascinating about Paul Thomas Anderson, though, is, he has this one movie in Heart 8. There's this small indie film that, is pretty well regarded. It allows him to eventually make Boogie Nights, which is this kind of huge success for him. Boogie Nights was. And like we talked about, it's kind of like it's Scorsese, but for porn actors instead of gangsters, and like it very, very well regarded, and you could argue like that this is his blank check moment where he's like, you made Boogie Nights, it's this smashing rave hit, you can do whatever you want to do now. And Paul Thomas Anderson makes a film that like almost like intentionally is just not going to like bring in a large audience. Like this is not the type of movie people go see. And it did okay, right? I think it did 48 million worldwide on a $37 million budget, which is an estimate. So that, I mean, made a little bit of money maybe. Wasn't like a huge rousing success. By the way, it's crazy how much our industry has changed, because $48 million for a small movie in 2025 would be like, we did it. Holy shit, we did it. And now people just don't go to the movies, like, especially for a movie like this, people would just not see this in the theater at all. But so like, I feel like Paul Thomas Anderson is kind of always throughout his career, like chasing just the thing he wants to do, and never really falls into the making mainstream 4-quadrant picture type thing.
Yeah. I mean, definitely the movie was critically acclaimed. Obviously, we already talked about all the awards, but I also wouldn't say that he's like chasing awards necessarily. I think like you said, he's sort of making something that he thinks is going to be powerful and original. Like that's one another word to describe both this movie and Boogie Nights is like, and really also, also just as easily applied to something to, There Will Be Blood. It's like, what an original concept for a movie. All of his movies, really, you just kind of sit back from it and unfocus your eyes, and you're like, nobody else would pick this story to make into a film. Like it's, which I find really admirable.
No, for sure. I'm thinking a lot about Denis Villeneuve right now, because it was just announced yesterday that Denis Villeneuve will be directing the next James Bond movie. And like, I love Villeneuve. I know you love Villeneuve, and we've really enjoyed his Dune films. We really enjoyed his Blade Runner movie, but like, there's a part of me that is just like, really, Denis? Can we leave the studio system big movies behind and like get back to the thing that I love most about your filmmaking? And I bring that up only because like, I feel like Paul Thomas Anderson has always and will always kind of continue to exist in that world of just like, I'm going to make what I want to make, and it's going to be new and different. And like, he's continued to have success with that, even in a world where, you could argue movies like this are not made anymore. Like, he has a movie coming out this year that it's probably going to be critically acclaimed. I mean, that's one thing that's definitely true for him, is that not all, but the majority of his movies have had critical acclaim, have been met with award nominations, at least, if not wins. but he's always kind of been the independent filmmaker guy.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
you would think there's just a different path you could see with a different person with the success of Boogie Nights, that he goes a different direction, and he just never was interested in going that direction. Like, I just continue to just love the fact that Magnolia is the follow-up to Boogie Nights, not huge gangster film X, which people probably wanted him to make.
Yeah, I mean, there's a business machine that's trying to pull talent into the machine and say, okay, you're good at this kind of thing, you're going to make us this kind of thing, and that's going to be your job, and you're going to become typecast as that, and you're going to be paid very well for it, and that's going to be it. And he's just like, no, I don't make any particular kind of thing. You look at all of his movies, and you can't even really say what genre most of these things are. It's just like, I don't understand. I don't understand what that means. What is a genre? What genre is the master?
No, great point. I mean, and yet I think there's a through line for sure. Mm-hmm. In the style and the writing and the type of stories he's telling. Like, even if the stories themselves don't have any commonalities, like again, I love Guillermo del Toro. I know you don't like him as much, but like, one thing we definitely noticed there was that just like, we were circling around the same themes and same ideas very, very deliberately. Mm-hmm. Whereas I feel like even if PTA is circling around some of the same themes broadly, like we've talked about, he just is interested in so many diverse different things.
I mean, maybe the same ideas will pop up a few times, but I think he likes to go further afield and explore some other ideas.
Yeah. I think the through line is definitely that he doesn't kind of tell stories the way that people tell stories. Mm-hmm. Just the way the plots of his movies unfold is just very, very different. And I haven't even I'm struggling to put a word to it exactly of like what is different about it. I think you watch a PTA movie and you feel the difference, mm-hmm. But you don't can necessarily describe the difference.
Yeah.
But but it's like, I'm thinking of the next movie on the list, because the next movie after this one is Punch Drunk Love, which is a totally different kind of movie from Magnolia, and yet is definitely like, you look at it and it's like, oh yeah, this is by the guy who wrote and directed Magnolia.
Yeah. I honestly, I always have to, check, like, is that the one with Adam Sandler?
It is. That is the Adam Sandler one. Yeah.
It just doesn't feel like a movie that could possibly come from the same guy who made There Will Be Blood. You're just like, no, that can't be the same. That doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
Which I think is a compliment, actually, where like these things very, very much feel different from each other. Again, I'm not hating on Del Toro, but it's like Del Toro has a thing that he likes to do, and this guy is all over the place, and I love that. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I can't wait to revisit Punch Drunk Love with you. It's been a long time since I've seen that one too. So
cool.
And he was doing Adam Sandler is Serious before anyone was doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll talk about it next week, but I just love the choice to cast Adam Sandler in this movie. I just really love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this may be like the best use of Adam Sandler, honestly, because he is, you're right. He is serious, but like there's an absurdity to it that works because of his comedic talent.
Yes.
Which is like like you're never laughing, but you're, I mean, it's actually like Sandler almost like returns to this later in his career and realizes mm-hmm. like this is his strength, actually.
Yep. No, for sure. Yeah. Oh man. All right. Anything else you wanted to say about Magnolia? Because we've already kind of moved on to Punch Drunk Love. So,
I don't think so. I think it was hard to talk about, and I think that's unsurprising because it's a weird movie. Mm-hmm. But I loved it. I loved all the performances. I loved the story. I loved the creativity. I was enthralled by it. I love this kind of movie where it's like a sort of what's the word? The thing that it has in common with Pulp Fiction, where it's kind of a bunch of
vignettes.
Yeah, I just love that kind of movie. So Really worked for me.
I do too. Yeah.
It. Yep.
I do too. Yeah, I think you said it perfectly. I can't add anything to that.
Great.
Just really delightful revisit. Enjoyed every second of it. It's a long movie, right? I don't think we've said that. It's 3 hours long, and we are notorious for our movies should not be more than 2 hours stance.
Yeah. I wish I had a microphone on to record the sound I made when I saw that it was 3 hours, because I was not happy, but then it won me over.
It does kind of earn its length. It's like you've got a lot of characters, you've got a lot of things you're exploring. I think it's very kinetic in how it cuts between it is interesting, like the way the movie kind of crescendos in multiple times, like where everything kind of leads to we're doing a lot of like fast cuts between the sequences. I think right around the game show time. I think when Jimmy Gator first falls in the game show, it feels like we're cutting pretty frantically between all the different stories as we lead up to that moment. And then the movie kind of slows down again. It's a very musical film. Not just in the fact that characters are singing songs, but just the way it builds and then ebbs, and yeah.
I didn't think of that, but that's true. I mean, I think it does tie in with its own soundtrack in a way that feels like it's being driven by the soundtrack. That's a great point.
Yeah. The only thing we also didn't talk about was the prophetic kid who apparently tells Jim, the cop, exactly who murdered the person in the closet with his rap.
Yeah, I thought the movie would explain all of that to me later in the movie, but then it just never really came up again. So I haven't had time to look into this. Like, is this supposed to be something that that we're supposed to figure out?
So I found this Reddit post that broke down the rap line by line, and then pointed out all of the ways in which the rap is just depicting every event in the movie.
Okay.
But like it definitely there were parts of it where I was like, yeah, I could see that, and there were lines I was like, that's pretty thin, man. So I don't know if that was actually the point or not. But I thought it was fun. Like that kind of this kind of movie breeds that kind of really wanting to get into the details and see something like that. But apparently there was another scene with the body in the closet, and I think Worm is the name of the character he's played by Orlando Bloom, but I think they cut the scene from the film. So that's part of the reason why it's left kind of ambiguous and open. But I think the other part of it is they just wanted it to be that way.
The body in the closet is Orlando Bloom?
No, the Worm is supposedly Worm is the person that the kid is rapping about and is the suspect they have for the murder.
Okay.
He's played by Orlando Bloom.
Okay, well that
or not. Hold on. Is Orlando Bloom the? I'm thinking of the wrong person.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's okay. Perhaps the point here is that they cut out the thing that it was going to be referring to.
Yeah, I need to correct myself.
Okay.
As quickly as possible, though.
Okay.
It's another actor whose name is Orlando.
Okay.
So you stall while I frantically bring up IMDb.
Orlando is the city that I went to last week, and I saw a rocket launch.
You're doing a really great job.
And I'd never seen a rocket launch before, and it was actually even cooler than I thought it would be. Because the rocket flame is like twice as bright as you're prepared for. It's like too bright to look at. And then the sound is like incredibly epic.
Okay, Orlando Jones. I got it. Orlando
Awesome.
Jones. The comedian actor who's a black man, unlike Orlando Bloom, who very much not.
Very much not.
Yeah, that's what I meant. Orlando Jones.
Okay.
Apologies.
Gotcha. I hope everyone enjoyed space launches with Matt. And we return to our usual programming.
Yeah, you sent me a picture of it, and I was like, cool.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
the picture did not do it justice.
Yeah, never seen a picture of a space launch before, Matt. Yeah, no, that's why you have to see it in person, because it's literally not, you're not ready for it, because pictures and movies have not actually captured the parts of the experience that are actually remarkable.
That's awesome. Yeah, this is a total tangent, but I realized the other day that my son had just like never seen a rocket launch, like even on TV or anything. So I just pulled up some of the SpaceX launches and had him watch them. And he's been obsessed with rockets. Like we were going through some of his school papers today, and just on the back of them, he's like, and those are rockets. And he did. He drew a cylinder with fire underneath it. These are rockets taking off. It's like, oh,
that's awesome. If you want,
yeah,
it's
great.
You should take a short swing down to Boca Chica and show him a rocket launch live. That would be
sure. I'll do that. Yeah. Just a quick jaunt.
Yeah, it's only what 1,000 miles. Yeah, probably, probably not that. Probably not that.
All right. I think the fact that we're talking about rockets and children means it's time to end the episode. So that is all we had on Paul Thomas Anderson's Magnolia, and that's how we're going to wrap things up this week. If you have any opinions on PTA or on Magnolia, we want to hear it. This is a movie I would love to hear everyone's takes on it, what they enjoyed about it. If you didn't like it, let us know too. You can reach out to us via email at doofmedia@gmail.com, over on Twitter @doofmedia, on Instagram @doofmedia, and on our subreddit, reddit.com/r/doofmedia.
560 miles.
500. That's not too bad.
Yeah. Make that in a weekend. If you're not already subscribed to the Doofcast, we encourage you to do so and ensure you never miss an episode. You can find us on iTunes, YouTube, and pretty much anywhere else you can listen to podcasts.
And you can find all of our shows over at our website, doofmedia.com. And if you like what we do on that website, please consider becoming a patron of Doof Media. You can head over to patreon.com/doofmedia and pledge at any of the available levels. Right now, we have our book club vote going on for our patrons. Our patrons get to pick what book we cover each month on our book club. We will be meeting to discuss that book on the 5th of July, on Saturday, July 5th. It was originally supposed to be tomorrow, the 27th of June, but we pushed it back a week and a day. So on July 5th at 9:30, we're going to be talking about Battle Royale on our YouTube channel. And also we'll be revealing what book we'll be doing for July as well. So if you want, there's still time to vote in that vote if you want to join Patreon and do so. So yeah, patreon.com/doofmedia is the place to do it.
Yeah, we'll see you all there.
Yeah.
All of you. Also, please consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. Each review helps us get more exposure and introduces new people to the content that we make here.
That is correct, folks. Please do that. All right, Matt, next week, Deconstructing PTA, Punch Drunk Love. We're doing it. I'm
awesome.
excited.
Me too.
We'll see y'all then.
My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say. My name is Doof, and you'll do what I say.